I really wanted to like Possum. It sounded really interesting. The poster, the marketing looked absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, I was going to say it's all style and no substance, but it feels like there could have been substance, but it was really badly written. And in terms of the style, there are moments when it's atmospheric, but also it's just very repetitive and not at all scary in the slightest. And in terms of being a psychological horror, it's not even so much that it's a slow burn. Everything is really obvious. The specifics, of course, are not that obvious, but kind of the overarching narrative, the things that are supposed to keep us in suspense, are so easy to work out. And I'm terrible at working out things like this. So it's very badly written, not at all scary, and honestly a bit of a disappointment. This was released in 2018, is written and directed by Matthew Holness, and it stars Sean Harris as Philip, and we have Alun Armstrong as his uncle Maurice. And Philip is a puppeteer who goes to live with his uncle, and for about an hour, maybe over an hour actually, he tries to get rid of this puppet, and that's ostensibly all that happens for about an hour. He tries to get rid of it in different locations. I feel like they made an effort to try and find some spooky locations. There's a canal which is really murky. We're under a tunnel with some train tracks at one point. Places that are generally potentially quite scary or dangerous, but the atmosphere wasn't there. And we just spend about an hour walking around with Philip, carrying this puppet in a bag, trying to get rid of it, and that's basically it. And I won't say what happens in the final half an hour. Things move forward very quickly. A lot happens. I'd say the bulk of the film happens towards the end. But unfortunately, it was all very obvious. Again, as I said, maybe the tiny specifics weren't obvious, but in general, it was clear to see what was coming. So it wasn't a good story, it's not well written, and unfortunately, although they tried to make it atmospheric, it doesn't work. It's not scary, there are no jump scares, there are no psychological twists, there's just nothing about this that's scary. And that's a shame, because the puppet actually does look quite gruesome the first time we see it. Initially, we don't see very much of it, we just see these spidery legs, huge, it's a really big puppet. I do think the size of it was a good idea, kind of spilling out of this bag that Philip's carrying it in. That did look quite creepy to begin with, because I guess it was the unknown, what's in the bag, what does it really look like. But there was never any fear or horror when it kept coming back. It was just kind of like, oh, it's back again, let's go to some other potentially scary place to try and get rid of it. Oh, it's back again, let's try and get rid of it again. And that's basically it. It looked terrifying from the poster. The marketing is absolutely brilliant. And unfortunately, the film is terrible. Very poorly written. And the puppet design is brilliant. Credit where it's due. I also wrote on my notes initially, the sound effects were really great. And then, after about half an hour, I didn't time it, but roughly half an hour in, the sound effects all started to be very, very high-pitched. And that's really uncomfortable to listen to. And it didn't add anything either. It's not like it made it spooky or atmospheric. It was just irritating. So some of the sound effects earlier on are okay, but they quickly fall apart and just become annoying. Possum isn't a good film. It's a good story. It's an okay idea, but very badly executed. I think maybe either in somebody else's hands or as a novel, it could have been quite interesting. But with this film, it's not good at all. Very poorly handled. Okay performances. I don't particularly like any of the characters in this. I don't think any of them are meant to be likable, which is also a bit of a strange experience, because if you can't root for something, or somebody rather, or if you can't get behind their journey emotionally at any point, and then on top of that you have a very poorly written narrative and no horror, it doesn't really offer anything. I really wanted to like Possum. It sounded great. The poster artwork looks amazing. But the film itself, for multiple reasons, is not good at all.